Chapter 2 opens right where Chapter 1 left off. Old Major dies a few days after giving his speech, and the animals are left to interpret his meaning and dream of his vision. Of course, everything Old Major had talked about was just in theory, so the realities of how to truly apply his teachings are still in development and figured out by the animals. It's here in this chapter that we're formally introduced to several of the characters who will begin taking center stage: the pigs. It is the pigs, who are the most intelligent creatures on the farm, who begin to fill in the place of Old Major and do the work of giving concrete applications for Old Major's teachings. For example, they host ongoing meetings with the animals, explain the rebellion and how it will impact everyone, and they elaborate on Old Major's teachings and call their system of thinking animalism. We specifically get introduced to three pigs. Napoleon is a big old boar with a reputation for getting his own way. Snowball is creative and passionate, but not quite as forceful as Napoleon. And Squealer, like his name suggests, likes to talk a lot and is an especially persuasive speaker. I think it's important to note that this chapter openly demonstrates that there are varying intellectual levels of the animals. The pigs are the most intelligent creatures and naturally assume those leadership roles. But the other animals are described as simple and even stupid. The pigs expend a lot of energy in this chapter, holding meetings, developing the philosophy that becomes animalism, and attempting to explain to other animals why this is also important. Towards the end of the chapter, it's revealed that the pigs had even secretly spent months teaching themselves to read. Thankfully, their efforts are reinforced by some of the animals who act as examples and something like interpreters for the others. The horses, Boxer and Clover, are described as faithful disciples of the pigs, who had great difficulty in thinking anything out for themselves, but having once accepted the pigs as their teachers, they absorbed everything that they were told and passed it on to the other animals by simple arguments. So while Boxer and Clover don't quite understand everything at the same level the pigs do, they are leaders by the example they set of their devotion. And as long as we're talking about horses, let's make sure we don't overlook Molly. Dear Molly is very obviously enamored with her own appearance and with the luxuries that are available to her on the farm. Her only questions about the rebellion involve if she'll be able to eat sugar and wear ribbons once humans are gone, and she receives the disappointing answer that no, these are considered part of the human way of life and are not allowed. It doesn't seem like the rebellion everyone keeps talking about is really going to do much for Molly. What's especially exciting in this chapter is that the rebellion that the animals thought might happen someday in the distant future actually really does happen just a few months after Old Major's speech. In a spur of the moment kind of way, the animals who weren't getting fed break into the storehouse and help themselves. Jones and his workers start striking the animals to get them back in order, and a fight breaks out between the animals and the humans, resulting in all of the humans rapidly fleeing the farm. The first thing the animals do is celebrate, and in their enthusiasm, run the entire course of the farm and sort of soak it all in. This is more of a delirious celebration before the new reality officially sets in. Next, they come to terms with the objects left behind by Jones. They tour the farmhouse in a silenced awe, vowing that no animal should reside in it or take part in its luxuries. They find all the tools of subjugation, like the whips and the bits, and they make sure those are all burned or thrown down the well. And so it's important to note that their initial response to all things human is to directly reject them. Even ribbons, seemingly against Molly's will, are thrown into the fire. To solidify their defiance of humanity, the pigs, who now can apparently read and write, paint the 7 commandments on the barn. These commandments seem designed to reject both humanity and humanity's ways, culminating with the last and greatest commandment that all animals are equal. And finally, the chapter ends with the animals rushing out to the fields to work the harvest. After all, it's their farm, and they now need to do the work of maintaining it. Of course, this dash to the fields is offset by a relatively small yet sinister moment. See, the cows have just been milked, and the animals all look hungrily at the 5 buckets of milk that's just laying out. Then they're told by Napoleon that they'll worry about the milk later. But when later comes, the milk is inexplicably gone. And so ends Manor Farm and begins the story of Animal Farm. The animals now all mutually own the farm and are working for themselves rather than for Jones. And as they rally together, the pigs, under the leadership of Napoleon and Snowball, begin to organize the new reality of the farm. But as the disappearance of the milk suggests, that new reality might not be quite as perfect as the animals had imagined.